Hello again there. New shirt. It's got a porg on it. This is part 2 of the Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, although it's not called that anymore. It's called The Spark of Hope, but my Star Wars Episode 9 rewrite. If you haven't seen part 1, I would definitely recommend watching it. The link and everything is in the episode description. If you haven't seen part 1 in a while, it's probably a good idea to give it another watch, but hey, maybe you're busy, maybe you're playing that hot new game, the Star Wars Squadrons, or whatever the kids are into when this video comes out. So here's a quick recap of everything that happened in part 1. If you don't need it, you can skip to this time in the video. Okay, here we go. Kylo Ren executes Hux and replaces him with the scientist named General Pryde. Rey, Finn, Poe, Rose, BB-8, and Claude go on a mission to discover what the First Order is after on the planet Batuu. It turns out Kylo Ren has plans that involve a new form of Kyber, the Force-sensitive mineral that's used in lightsabers in the Death Star. During the mission, they are ambushed by 2 Knights of Ren, one of whom Rey fights. During the escape, Poe shoots 2 stormtroopers who he is not aware are surrendering to Finn and attempting to switch sides. The team travels back to their new Resistance base on Cloud City and has a meeting with the other Resistance leaders that is interrupted by a fleet of First Order starfighters. The older characters are captured as Rey, Finn, Poe, Rose, BB-8, and Claude escape. They travel to Savareen, a planet that Nando believes may be where the Kyber was refined. Okay. Act 2. The difficult middle child. Our story is Jan Brady, because Act 1 is about setting up the story, then Act 3 is about ending it. So where does that leave Act 2? Well, Act 2 is the part of the story where we do the story. Like, this is where the movie happens. Is that clear enough? No? Not remotely? I made things worse? Okay. Think about it like this. Act 2 is sometimes known as the promise of the premise. What are we here to see? In Avengers, Act 2 is the act where our Avengers actually assemble on the helicarrier and argue. In Speed Racer, a favorite of mine, Act 2 is where Speed leaves home to compete in the dangerous Casa Cristo rally race. That movie is awesome. And then a third one, pulling out of thin air, Star Wars A New Hope. That's where Luke, Obi-Wan, and the droids meet Han and Chewie, and they go on some damn fool idealistic crusade to rescue a princess. So that's going to be similar to what we're going to do in Act 2. It is the act where our heroes go on an adventure to a mysterious planet and interact with some colorful characters while they make an effort to learn about Kylo Ren's evil plan. Act 2 is also tricky because it is traditionally the longest of the 3 acts. Act 1 and Act 3 each run about a quarter of the runtime, which leaves Act 2 with half of the runtime of the movie. And that's why we are going to be looking at Act 2 in 2 parts. This video, part 2, will cover the first half of Act 2, ending at the midpoint of the story. Now, what's the significance of the midpoint? Well, it's another plot point like the one at the end of Act 1 where everything changes. There's some massive shift in the status quo. Usually, but not always, this comes in the form of a big moment, like the power going out in Jurassic Park and the T-Rex escaping, or the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope. So, this first half of Act 2, we're going to call it 2A. What are we going to be doing? Well, I want to advance the story by sending the characters on a mission while exploring the internal issues that we've introduced in Act 1. Simple enough. And on the back of the siege of Cloud City, our heroes are really starting to feel some serious pressure. So let's develop those internal issues that will drive conflict within our characters. Claude the Slugman, and yes, his name is apparently Claude, I know. Claude flies the ship through hyperspace while the rest of our main characters have some character moments. First, Finn is thinking about Batuu and the surrendering stormtroopers that Poe killed. He flashes back to the first scene from the sequel trilogy, Kylo Ren's attack on Jakku. It's just before they exit the ship. Finn is standing at the ready next to another stormtrooper, FN 2003, whose nickname is canonically Skip, and they have a little moment to show that they're friends. A thumbs up or something small like that. Then we flash forward to Finn in the middle of a firefight where he sees Skip on the floor dying. Finn looks over to get a visual on whoever shot Skip and sees Poe Dameron shooting stormtroopers. Because, and not to nitpick, not unlike my podcast Mostly Nitpicking, this is a thing that happened in the first movie. Finn's best friend was murdered by Poe Dameron. Yeah, we only learned this guy is Finn's friend in the comics, but still, The moment that turned Finn around and set him on this new path is the death of another stormtrooper, and the person who killed that stormtrooper is Finn's eventual best friend Poe, but that never comes up. It might be the single biggest missed opportunity of the sequel trilogy. The ball was teed up just sitting there, and they still managed to strike out. So Poe sees Finn sitting alone. He says, "Hey, you all right?" Finn says, "They were surrendering. They just wanted to join our side." So says, "Oh, you still on that?" Finn says, "Yeah, I'm still on that. We're raised from birth to be stormtroopers. They don't know any other way." Poe says, "How many of them have you killed, huh?" Listen, do I want to kill anyone? Of course not. But I'm not going to risk the lives of everyone in the Resistance for a couple of stormtroopers who might want to join our side. It is way too risky. It's not the smart thing to do. We get a moment and Finn says, "But it's the right thing to do." Then we get some Rey and Rose. Rose asks, "Can you sense any of them?" Rey says, "I've been trying since we left, but there's too much. I don't know, I just can't." Rose says, "If he finds us, we need to make sure he doesn't get to you." Rey says, "What do you mean?" Rose says, "I mean, if they show up here, if things look bad, promise me you'll leave us. Let us buy you some time so that you can figure out how to stop him. You're the only one who can." Rey says, "You're crazy. I'm not abandoning you." Rose says, "We can take care of ourselves. But if he's after you, we need to do whatever we can to make sure he doesn't find you. Go somewhere safe, somewhere he can't follow you." Rey says, "Rose, I can't do this without you guys." Rose says, "You can. Hopefully it won't come to that. But if it does," Rey says, "we'll see." I talked about this a little bit in part 1, but I want to really start seeding some of the big themes in this scene, and the biggest is the idea of breaking the cycle. We have characters who are going through the same motions as we saw in previous Star Wars movies. Another Death Star, another Empire, another Last Jedi. But since this is the final installment in the Skywalker saga, I want to challenge some of those conventions, force our characters to use their unique perspectives to make a change. So this doesn't happen again in 20 or 30 years, to break the cycle. So the team is on a mission, but they're still on shaky ground. We also need to check on our villains. I've already talked about this bit in another video. I would love to have Kylo Ren meet Chewbacca, attempt to interrogate him, and fail. Like, that's just a fun character moment, and concept art has shown that something like that might have happened. But Kylo Ren is upset, still determined, so then let's say he goes to interrogate Snap Wexley next or something. We don't need to see it, but we can tell that Snap is not going to be as much trouble as Chewbacca. Also, this is probably the best place to acknowledge the bantha in the room. Carrie Fisher died between episodes 8 and 9, and as a result, her role in the movie was reduced significantly. Honestly, that JJ was able to put together anything using old footage and it resembled a movie was, like, amazing. And I can't work under that constraint since I am not J.J. Abrams and I do not have access to the footage, so I've just rewritten the movie as if she were still alive to film it. Anyway, this is a Star Wars movie, so it's time for some sneaking. Star Wars movies are mostly characters sneaking around and getting in fights. So the team lands on Savareen. Claude, I love that name, Claude stays on the ship since his size makes him a poor sneaker. Our heroes sneak into the compound on Savareen. It's a big old refinery, lots of metals, materials, sparks, minerals, and such. And Poe notices a droid with one wheel and a little beak. He tells the rest of the gang, "I feel like I've seen that droid before, but I can't remember where." This is probably the best place for an "I've got a bad feeling about this." So Rey senses the Kyber and they sneak a little more, find some sort of lab. The heroes start looking around and see Babu Frick working on some projects that include some remains of the Kyber. And then they're caught by the little duck wheel droid and gassed and knocked out. So this is going to be our introduction to Zory Bliss, who in this movie is the owner of the Savareen refinery. For those of you who remember, in the original movie, Zory Bliss was a smuggler who knew Poe from their days as spice runners or space drug runners, which was weird for a bunch of reasons. At the time, it didn't gel with the current canonical backstory of Poe that was established in the books and comics. It was also a little strange that Poe Dameron, played by the Guatemalan Oscar Isaac, the Star Wars movie's second main character played by a Latinx actor, with the first being Diego Luna's Cassian Andor, was retroactively turned into a drug lord. It was a pretty transparent attempt to make Poe Dameron into Han's story by giving him a backstory that made our hero slightly distrustful of him, but I don't think that new tension really went anywhere anyway. So let's take the interesting part of that relationship. Zory and Poe know each other and they don't really like each other now, and turn it into something that fits this story. So our heroes wake up in chains, surrounded by guards, and Zory Bliss enters. I want Zory to be cool, like Nando cool, living her best life, quipping, tossing around the lightsaber that Rey brought with them. Zory starts interrogating the heroes a bit. She says she runs this station, they aren't kind to intruders, she might make them work here for a bit. And then one of her guards brings in BB-8 and she completely changes her tune. Get him out of there. Real cagey. And Poe notices D.O. again and puts something together. What's your name again? Zory Bliss? I knew I recognized that droid in your voice. You're Xena Breen. Finn says, who? Poe explains, Xena was a pilot in the academy with Poe. She was incredibly skilled, and then she had a really good friend who was her, quote, wingman. But then, one day, during a raid on an old Imperial base, the friend was killed. And then Xena left the academy, went completely off the grid, apparently changed her name, started a new life. Poe always resented that. He thought Xena, or Zory now, was a quitter. Zory orders that they leave. Rey pleads that Zory needs to help the Resistance, but Zory refuses. She is done with that life. Zory says that she'll let them fix their ship quickly and then leave before she alerts the First Order that they're here. Our heroes leave. A big part of the difficulty in writing Act 2 is advancing the narrative while continually raising the stakes. And in this sense, the external stakes are the same. But the interesting part of 2A leading to the midpoint is raising the internal stakes. Right now, none of our heroes are on the same page. Rey is doubting herself, Poe is out of options, and Finn is having serious doubts about the Resistance in general. So let's make that more difficult for Finn. Zory appears to be the worst person for Finn to meet right now. A hero who quit and is happy, no regrets. So let's have her and Finn talk. Finn peels back from the rest of the group and asks Zory, do you regret it? Zory says, not at all. It wasn't for me. I realized once she died that I was only there because of her, to keep her safe. So when I couldn't do that anymore, what's the point? Some of these guys love fighting, the drama, the destiny. But that's not everybody. And Finn says, yeah, I've been having second thoughts myself. Tired of seeing people die in front of me. And then Zory connects with Finn and offers him a choice. Hey kid, listen, I get it. If you want to stay here, work with me. I'll hide you from the First Order or whoever shows up next. You can live a real life. We're giving Finn a difficult choice. Poe, Rose, and Claude make a plan. Rey wants to look over the Kyber while the rest of the team plans the next move. So Poe, Rose, BB-8, and Claude try to figure out where to go next. Their only lead is dead and they can't stay on Savareen. And on top of that, Finn just disappeared and Rey seems completely lost. Then we see Rey talking to Babu Frick. He tells her that he doesn't know what the Kyber was for, but he needed the impurities removed. The purest Kyber he could find. He also tells Rey that he has some left over if she wants to look at it. Rey takes the Kyber and concentrates. Then she is transported into a room with Kylo Ren. More Force Skyping. He's wearing a new suit of armor. It's black but has a red glow. He's holding the new helmet in his hands. Kylo says, Rey, you're alive. Rey says, what have you done with everyone? Kylo says, they're here. You'll join them soon. Rey mentions the armor. Kylo explains that she knows what it is. Then Rey realizes that the armor is made of Kyber. The glow it gives off is from the crystals amplifying Kylo's power. She says, I'll never join you. He says, I know. I gave you plenty of chances and you never took them. I am tired of giving people chances. Rey says, well, what do you want with me? Kylo says, why does it always have to be about you? Then Kylo puts on his helmet and walks over to his ship. Rey looks around and she sees that she's in a hangar with tons of other First Order ships. And the shield goes down and she sees Savareen. Then Rey calls the rest of the group over the communicator. She says, he knows we're here. We need to go. Poe hears the message, looks out of the ship where the team is talking, and sees a fleet of First Order ships approaching Savareen. So at the midpoint of our story, we usually run into something called the midpoint. It is the second big plot point where the momentum of the story changes dramatically. Hawkeye attacks the helicarrier, the dinosaurs escape, etc. It is frequently, but not always, some sort of extreme. Things either get much better or much worse. And they're about to get a lot worse. How much worse will things get? We will find out next time in part 3 of the Rise of Skywalker rewrite. Oh, and one more thing. I made a new video. This is a new video, but not this. Another new video. It's my third entry in the Working Titles series. It's one where I talk about why I love the opening titles of Doom Patrol. And it just went live on Nebula. You've definitely heard me talk about Nebula before. It's an amazing subscription streaming service made by myself, a bunch of other top educational creators on YouTube. You can watch our videos without ads, supported by the creators you like, and watch Nebula originals that exist only there, like those Working Titles videos. There are also exclusives from Lessons from the Screenplay, Lindsay Ellis, a ton of others. You're also probably familiar with CuriosityStream. It is a terrific subscription streaming service devoted to nonfiction programming, documentaries, and stuff like that. Well, CuriosityStream and Nebula have teamed up to create a bundle. If you sign up for CuriosityStream at the link in the description, you get a Nebula subscription for free. You can check out CuriosityStream, watch The Secret World of Lego, which is about how Legos are designed and built. I know, as a Star Wars fan, I have spent far more than I would like to admit on Legos, so that was an interesting documentary. And then you can go check out what we have on Nebula. And right now, there is a 26% discount on annual plans. It is a win-win-win-win. Go to curiositystream.com/NandoVMovies, or just click the link in this description, sign up, watch today. All of those things I said, they are awesome. As always, I have to give a humongous thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel on Patreon. You guys are amazing. If you want to see your name up here, get access to videos early, other cool stuff, throw in literally any amount of money, patreon.com/NandoVMovies. You guys, honestly, you have no idea how much I appreciate it, how helpful it is, keeping the lights on, stuff like that. Also, follow me and maybe subscribe to me on Twitch, twitch.tv/NandoVMovies. That's where I play games. I'm playing Marvel's Avengers. I have Star Wars Squadrons. I've got Hades, which I've been going through, which I quite enjoy. So any of those games, if I play them, and any few, whatever the hot new thing is, I don't know, Cyberpunk, maybe. Who knows? Maybe that. You can find me playing it on twitch.tv/NandoVMovies. Also listen to my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, where every week me and my co-host DJ and Diggins pick apart a piece of pop culture by looking exclusively at the details. We've done many episodes on Star Wars movies. We are going to be doing episodes on the new releases that are going to come out at the end of the year, like Tenet and New Mutants, finally. So those are going to be a lot of fun. I have a feeling the New Mutants episode is going to be just like a mess, because it's just going to be crazy to talk about New Mutants. And I have a feeling the Tenet episode, without having seen either of those movies, is just going to be so complicated, which should make for a fun podcast. We are at NitPickingPod on Twitter. Last thing, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm NandoVMovies on all of those things. That is all I've got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.